All right, today Mark and I are going to show you, he has some scratches on the door of his truck. He's got a beautiful truck, but has a couple scrapes here. So I'm going to show you guys basically how to prep it before you wet sand it. So first thing I'm going to do is I have some rubbing alcohol, 70% rubbing alcohol, which is right here. Mix 50-50 with water in this squirt bottle. So I have my rag folded in 4, and then I'm going to give the bottle a quick shake. And I'm going to give it a light mist just to pre-clean the panel, basically. Then I'll use one side of the rag. I'm going to turn my headlight on. I'll take one side of the rag and then dry it with the other side. And it's coming into this door as well. So it's a pretty light scratch. So we're going to go ahead and wet sand it. I'll keep this rag and I'll fold it the other way. And I'm going to use, I have a bucket here. You want to show them here, Mark? I have a bucket with a bunch of grits of sandpaper, and I have a grit guard in the bottom of it. So I put a little bit of Dawn dish soap. And we're going to try it with some 2500. Rule of thumb is basically you start from finest to coarsest. So if this doesn't work, then I'll drop down. Actually, I may start with 2000. But biggest thing is you want to fold your sandpaper. This is a sheet that was cut in half. These are normally, I believe, 9x11 sheets. Cut it in half, and then I'm going to fold this in thirds. So pretty much want to make sure it's equally folded in thirds. After you've done it for a while, it'll go real quick. So this block right here is called a Meguiar's E7200 sanding pad, and you can block sand it with this. So basically, first thing I do with my sandpaper is I'll fold it in thirds, and then I'll kind of break the edges down a little bit. Now I have been soaking it in the bucket, and it's also had about I don't know, 5 drops of Dawn dish soap. It'll help lubricate it a little bit and help the sandpaper slide. So the biggest thing I do is I kind of curl my edges on my sandpaper and just kind of break it down a little bit. So it's nice and soft. I've had it soaking for probably a good hour. And then I'm going to take this Meguiar's E7200 and I'm going to put it inside the sandpaper like so. And then basically there's kind of 2 ways to sand it. One way to sand is you can sand, I either sand, like I turn my block to a 45 and I block sand straight, or if I'm going to set the block straight, then I'll block sand at a 45. So I don't ever block sand this way. It's either like this, or it's flat and then moving in what they call an X pattern or cross hatching it. So, maybe come on this side. So, real light, we're going to use some 2000. So, biggest thing is I'm just going to lightly, and you want, the main thing when you're wet sanding is, you know, like I said, you cock your block to a 45-degree angle, and then you can do series of cross hatching it, which is basically X patterning it one direction, and then you can X pattern it the other direction. And the main thing is just starting with being very surgical about it. So starting with clean paper, clean water, clean vehicle. The biggest thing is you don't want to pretty much, if you want to listen to your sandpaper. So when you're sanding, if you can hear it, like there's some contaminants underneath, you want to stop it right away. And you'll notice I'm kind of doing some circular motions. That's all right too. But the biggest thing is if you sand straight like this, sometimes I notice you'll get gouges, or I call them train tracks. So that's why I tend to basically cross hatch it. So essentially you'll just want to keep sanding, and you can kind of see a little bit, you can still see a little bit of the scratch there. So essentially just kind of sand lightly. You don't want to put too much pressure on it. The biggest thing is you just want to let the sandpaper do the work. And, you know, dunk it periodically, and be liberal with it. More water's better. The beauty of wet sanding is it lubricates your paper, and so your paper's constantly clean. So that's really the big beauty behind it. So dry sanding is awesome too, but really wet sanding is great because it keeps your paper, it's constantly cleaning your paper, so it's constantly sharp. So like I said, you want to really listen. If you start hearing anything underneath the sandpaper, then you want to stop and dunk your paper and your sponge. Sometimes I'll use a tile sponge or just a regular sponge, but here I'm going to use a regular sponge. So at some point you want to stop, put your sandpaper down, and kind of, I usually take a microfiber cloth and just kind of wipe over it, and you can kind of see what you've removed. So essentially it's just gonna, and you can blow dry it essentially, and you can still see it a little bit. So I'm gonna need to work on it a little more. So, and I may need to drop down to a little bit lower grit because this might not be coarse enough. I got the cameraman Mark here behind the camera. So I do have some 1500. We're going to drop down to the 1500 because you can still see there's some scratches there. So we're going to drop to a coarser grit. That's kind of rule of thumb is you want to use the lightest measure possible first, and if that doesn't work, then you drop down to a little bit coarser grit. And like I said, you just want to let the sandpaper do the work. I'm working in circles, and that's okay too. The other option is to dry sand it. I could take an air sander and some 12 or 1500 and knock it out, which I definitely could do it. But right now we're going to just stick with wet, see how it comes out. So yeah, the biggest thing is soaking your paper. If you don't soak your paper, it's extremely aggressive and coarse, and you'll get what they call train tracks, and those aren't much fun to polish out. So and periodically you just want to give it a little, you kind of want to wring your sponge out and let the water drip down the panel. The other product you can use is laundry soap in your bucket. Beauty of using laundry soap is it's super slippery, so that's a nice key. Okay, and a lot of this is just doing it and kind of seeing how it turns out. So we'll dry it real nice and blow dry it. There we go, still a little bit there. So we'll wet sand a little more. Now there's a couple ways I could finish polishing this thing. I could use a Rupes or I can use a rotary buffer. I'm probably going to end up using a rotary buffer just in case there's some slight scratches in there. I'll turn the blocks kind of at a 45 and go straight with it. And a lot of it you just kind of figure out how you like to do it, but it's mainly just putting a little bit of light pressure on the panel and letting your sandpaper do the work. You don't want to over sand because you'll cut through the clear coat, so I'm probably about to the point of where I'm done, and I'm going to start raising the grit. We're at 1500. I'll hit it with some 2000, 2500, then I'll hit it with 3 and 5, 3000 and 5000 Trizac. So, and a lot of this it looks like we got the scratch out pretty good. So I'm going to jump up to 2000, and you can use a block, or the other thing you can do is just use it without a block, and I'm going to show you that. So main thing is, at this point I got most of the scratches out. but I want to jump up and grit and make it a little smoother. So I'm actually just going to do it by hand. You can block sand it, there's nothing wrong with that. And you can hand sand it as long as you let the edges of the paper curl up. So when I hold it, I don't hold it like this. I hold it sideways, but I make sure the front edge of my paper is up, and that way it doesn't kind of dig in. So you don't want to sand too much, but it's a fine line. So it's you want to remove the scratch, but you don't want to burn through the clear coat. So, and that just comes with experience. I mean, you do it enough times and that paper will stick to the side, and I'll get a little more water on my sponge. So a lot of this is just try practicing, and if you've ever done auto body, you get a lot of practice at sanding. So yeah, Mark's got a real nice truck, and so we're gonna make this scratch go away. So basically, I want to try to remove the 1500 grit scratches with the 2000. And at this point, mainly all I'm trying to do is bring the scratch up to a finer level. And the smoother the scratch, the finer the scratch, the faster it polishes out. So there's one step we could have done before this, and that is a clay bar or a clay disc. His truck's in extremely nice shape, and he's taking good care of it. So basically, we're not gonna. I felt the panel before, and there wasn't any quote unquote bonded contaminants. So now I'm gonna take some 2500, which most guys stop at 2. I'm gonna go all the way to 2500 by hand. I prefer to finish in 25 if I can. You can go 2000 and 3000 and 5000, or just even stop at 3000. But basically, I'm just bringing that scratch level up a little more. Just make it a little bit finer. So you'll probably ask yourself or wonder, like, how long do you sand? And the biggest thing is it's really just a feel thing. It's you kind of, after you've been sanding for a while, you know when you've really removed the scratch, and that's just it. So I can't exactly tell you, other than you just have to do it, and it takes time to, basically it's a feel thing. And so once you get the feel for it, then you'll know. So I also have a light back here, and that's awesome. That's just an LED light, but it's super important to have side lighting. I also wear a headlight with everything I do, because it really makes a difference. If you can't see it, you can't fix it. So is what they say. So I feel like I'm about done with the 2500. Just working in nice circular patterns. Like I said, I could go this way and cross hatch it, but sometimes circular patterns are nice. Some people say you shouldn't put circular patterns in it, but it seems to work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and dry it and just kind of inspect what I have. You can use an air blower to dry it off, but I prefer these microfiber towels. So why don't you zoom in on it, Mark?
That's good.
You want to zoom in just to show? Yeah. So we've pretty much removed them. So I'm going to jump to a couple finer grits, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to jump to, next grit will be, and I'm going to use it on an air sander. This is 3000 grit Trizact, and I'm going to use O&R, which is an awesome product. I have Optimum No Rinse in here, mixed 2 ounces per gallon, which is 4 times what they recommend. But so I'm going to go ahead and liberally spray the panel, and I'll spray the pad. I generally go over it at least 2 times at low speed. I'm going to crack the door just so I don't hit the edge. So here we go. So once again, let the sander do the work. I'll go past my repair, past my 2500, which this is 3000 grit. This is a 3M, basically it's like a foam sanding pad. And this is an awesome product. It basically finishes out your sandpaper, and it does a real nice job in making sure it gives you a little bit finer scratch. So one thing about sanding is you want to do it with a little bit of finesse. I'm sanding in a pattern, and I'm overlapping. You don't want to jump around and sand this way and that way. You overlap and use like a ladder rung technique where you go across one rung, jump to the next rung, jump to the next rung. You just want to be smooth and fluid with it. So you know where you've been and you know where you're going. So it's all about being meticulous in how you do things. So we'll kind of go vertically now. We were going horizontally. I'm going to go vertically. And one more time. I do it at least twice. You know, you can go pretty slow if you wanted, and then just do it twice. If you can go a little faster, do it 3 or 4 times. The biggest thing is just making sure that you've removed that 2500 scratch. And this I would actually consider a polishing grit. I don't consider this an actual sanding grit. I consider this more like polishing. So that's kind of the beauty of it, is it's really not made to do anything but polish. Now this is actually 5000 grit, and this is 3M Trizac 5000. So once again, O&R, spray the panel, and again, here we go. The other thing you can do, which when I'm painting I really like to do this, is like put the hose over my neck, and then I can hold it with my other hand, my left hand, and that way I know where my hose is and it's not getting in the way. So I pretty much paint all the cars I paint like this. It's a little different, but it's how I feel comfortable. So I got the sander just turned down fairly low too. It's not screaming. I'm just kind of going real low. So we're going to finish it in 5000. That way it'll polish super fast. And I have 2 options when it comes to polishing. I could use a rotary buffer, or I could use a random orbital, Rupes or Meguiar's, or whatever kind you have. I'll probably, just for the video's sake, I'm probably going to use a rotary just on my next video, show you guys kind of how to do it. And I have some other videos, but it's not really actually showing the polisher in action. So my last pass here, they call this a section pass in random orbital. I'll just go nice and slow and really drag that DA. And one thing I want to point out is you can see the DA is actually spinning. That's important. If it's not spinning, it's not doing the work. So I'll give it one more real quick pass, and that's as much as I want to sand on this car. So you'll dry it, but you'll see the 5000's new, the 3000's a little older. It's been used a couple times, so, but you'll see real, zoom in on it, would you, Mark? You'll see real how fine the scratch is now. So it's a real fine scratch pattern, so it should polish out nicely. So that's about it. I'll make another video here, and we'll make a video on how to polish it. Thanks for watching.